As the seasons pass and Prince Arel turns 5, we see him in the pastures of his territory, riding his mighty stallion with a companion by his side. He tugs on the reins, urging his horse to gallop faster and faster. However, appearances can be deceiving, as the prince is actually just playing pretend on a rocking horse. Sheena asks him if he wants to ride a real horse instead, but Prince Arel replies that it's too dangerous. Sheena tries to persuade the young prince that at his age, he should be interested in horse riding and swordplay. Nonetheless, Arel confidently rejects the notion that a prince must ride a horse, leaving Sheena disheartened by his apparent lack of motivation. This isn't Prince Arel's first life. In fact, it's his 101st reincarnation. Having lived through so many lives, he has come to understand a harsh truth. Extraordinary talent invites misfortune. Whenever he excels at something, like swordsmanship or magic, he attracts attention and must confront those who seek to exploit or destroy him. As a prince of both royal and humble lineage, his actions are critical. His ultimate goal is to enjoy a comfortable life, reaping the benefits of his position. Back in the castle, Prince Arel informs Sheena that he needs some alone time and asks her not to disturb him. Sheena agrees, and as he closes the door behind Sheena, she sulks, hoping the prince will find solace in meditation. In reality, he's merely lying in bed, doing nothing. Later that day, we find Prince Arel and Sheena arguing. On the verge of tears, the prince composes himself and takes a seat. Sheena asks if he despises studying so much, reminding him that at 5 years old, he should be eager to learn and expand his knowledge. However, Prince Arel simply replies that he hates it, has no interest in the world, and sees no need for further knowledge. Sheena sighs and tells Prince Arel that he sounds like someone who has lived several lives. Before she could finish, Prince Arel interrupts her, assuring her that it was not her fault. With a resolute expression, he silently decides that he wants to live for once. YOLO doesn't apply to Prince Arel, so it only took him 100 reincarnations to have this lifestyle once. Sheena reminds the prince that, according to royal law, he must begin his studies at age 5. She places an assortment of basic books before him, explaining that they have been carefully selected just for him. Prince Arel, however, exudes an air of melancholy and demonstrates the proper way to use a book by spinning it. Flustered, Sheena tells him he should be reading, not spinning, and that many commoners wish to learn but lack the opportunity. Prince Arel dismisses her words, using the books to construct a makeshift house. Sheena insists that he treat the books with respect and return to his seat, but he has other plans. Since Sheena refuses to listen, he resorts to whining, crying out, "I don't want to! I won't study!" Just then, the door bursts open, and Prince Arel's loving mother appears, her gaze filled with irritation. If anything in this world can make something stop, it would be a loving mother's gaze of irritation. Under her watchful eye, the prince reluctantly begins his studies in the library. Despite this, he knows that if his parents truly wanted him to learn more about the world, he would be safe. Ironically, the more he excels, the more he endangers those around him. After all, the more a child of a concubine with noble blood displays their talent, the more others will seek to harm them. It may seem unfair, but one's destiny is often determined at birth. All Prince Arel desires is a carefree, idle life for the sake of everyone. As Prince Arel daydreams, and Sheena interrupts him, insisting that if he studies diligently and earns praise, everyone will be happy. Arel ponders this notion, but ultimately deems it too presumptuous for him. Sheena, however, urges him to abandon such thoughts, warning him that his continued reluctance will sadden his mother. This revelation sparks a newfound determination in Prince Arel, and he decides to study for his mother's sake. Still, he refuses to learn swordsmanship or magic, fearing the consequences. Instead, he begins brainstorming ideas for his future. A few days later, a carriage arrives at the concubine's residence. Sheena informs Prince Arel that a mage from the magic tower is there to assess his mana. If he proves talented in this area, he will receive magical instruction. This news worries the prince, as any mage would surely sense the vast, unparalleled mana within him. His only option is to conceal his mana somehow. As the prince walks down the hallway to meet the tester, head bowed, Sheena tries to lift his spirits, assuring him that regardless of his mana level, he can still develop his abilities. The door opens, revealing the tester's shocked expression. The mage swiftly rises to his feet and locks eyes with Prince Arel. As they study each other, Prince Arel observes the mana coursing through the mage's body, wondering how he himself appears through the mage's eyes. As the mage approaches and grasps Prince Arel's arm to check his vitals, he remarks that he has noticed something unusual. Sheena compliments Prince Arel, asking if he is special, but the mage hesitates, unsure whether to call him special or peculiar since he can't detect any mana within the prince's body. Despite his efforts to use mana to examine Prince Arel's veins, the mage finds nothing. Sheena is astonished by this revelation, while Prince Arel leans back in his chair, secretly celebrating his successful concealment of mana. Earlier, as Prince Arel strolled down the hallway towards the reception room, he had been circulating his chi to condense his mana. Once condensed, he directed it to his peripheral nerves. Meeting the mage, he was relieved to see a look of surprise on the mage's face, as the absence of mana in a member of the royal lineage defied logic. Prince Arel had successfully thrown the mage off course while his veins were being probed for mana. The mage informed Lady Livana that Prince Arel appeared to have no aptitude for mana, leaving her puzzled. The mage explained that even commoners possessed a small amount of mana, yet Prince Arel had none whatsoever. Overhearing this, the prince wondered if he had gone too far. A look of despair crossed Lady Livana's face as she realized her son lacked the abilities needed to become a mage. However, this was all part of Prince Arel's scheme to convince everyone of his incompetence, making them believe he was incapable of handling mana at all. As he sulked in his chair, he knew that this was only the beginning of his feigned ineptitude. The following day, Prince Arel is introduced to a young knight named Lanfil Tagaran, who has been assigned to instruct him in the art of swordsmanship. Prince Arel inwardly judges his new trainer, believing him to be too weak and ordinary to capture his interest or match his skill level. In his previous life, the prince had fought various monsters and endured countless intense battles. Nevertheless, Prince Arel agrees to the training, encouraging both of them to do their best and grow stronger. However, he secretly believes the training is more for the young knight's benefit than his own. Despite this, he has no desire to undergo any challenging exercises, like Sister Kanya, who wears weights to develop her physical strength. Lanfil explains that this type of rigorous training is customary for the Kinchester family, but Prince Arel retorts that it sounds more like something a household of martial artists would do. He then inquires about their training plan. Lanfil informs the prince that, in addition to strength, swordsmanship requires flexibility and balance, which he demonstrates by skillfully swinging his sword. He suggests they begin with basic exercises to enhance balance and concentration, such as balancing on logs. Prince Arel exclaims that he fears falling, but he has only started on the lowest step. Lanfil reassures him with a strained smile, saying that even if he were to fall, he wouldn't be injured. Prince Arel then asks what he should do, given his fear of heights. The next focus of their training is flexibility. Since Prince Arel is young, Lanfil assumes he will have no issues with this. However, much to Lanfil's surprise, the young prince struggles to even touch his toes. Undeterred, Lanfil moves on to sword training using wooden swords. He teaches Prince Arel to use centrifugal force to transfer power to the tip of his sword. As the prince attempts this, his grip falters, and the sword slips from his grasp. Lanfil watches in disbelief as Prince Arel completely botches the exercise. Prince Arel, with a look of despair, admits to Lanfil that he has no talent for swordsmanship. But Lanfil encourages him, explaining that it is his first time and that he will improve with continued training. He then hands the prince another sword. Throughout the training, Prince Arel is aware of a watchful observer. His feigned incompetence has been intentional, designed to spread rumors of his inadequacy throughout the city. Indeed, whispers among the nobility suggest that Prince Arel possesses even less mana than commoners. These rumors eventually reach the Queen's ears, describing how Prince Arel has failed in every aspect of martial arts, and is so clumsy that he might trip simply by walking. While some are amused by these tales, they place Prince Arel in a difficult position. At the concubine's castle, Prince Arel receives news of an incoming private tutor while enjoying delicious cookies and orange juice, a unique combination for these medieval times. The circulating rumors of Prince Arel's ineptitude have caused numerous tutors to refuse the responsibility of teaching the so-called trash prince. Curious as to who would dare take on the task, Prince Arel peers out the window just in time to see his new tutor alighting from a carriage. Moments later, he learns that the tutor's name is Gamal Pernia. The atmosphere in the room grows tense, weighed down by the pressure of teaching an allegedly incompetent prince and the presence of a disinterested student. Prince Arel sighs in resignation, deciding that they should begin with literature, focusing on foreign and common languages. Gamal places stacks of books before Prince Arel, explaining that learning basic grammar typically takes only a day. However, given the prince's notorious reputation, Gamal offers him a few days instead, reassuring him that it's fine if he still struggles. Annoyed, Prince Arel insists that he will do his best. Gamal carries on, stating that poor academic performance is not necessarily due to a lack of interest or aptitude, but rather the capacity of the brain, implying that it isn't the prince's fault. Prince Arel finds it disheartening to be openly looked down upon for his perceived incompetence. He realizes that while he wanted people to stop caring about him, he hadn't anticipated the sting of their disdain. As night falls and moonlight bathes the library in the concubine's castle, a small figure slips through the doorway. Prince Arel. The prince prides himself on his exceptional linguistic skills, owing to his hundreds of past lives, which have allowed him to speak fluently from an early age. Strolling through the library's corridor, he wonders whether he should startle others with his genius. Concentrating mana in his hands, Prince Arel searches for books on vocabulary and grammar, using his magical abilities to pluck them from the shelves as he passes each row. He decides to broaden his scope and include books from other countries as well. With precision, he collects all relevant texts and neatly arranges them on a table. As he opens one of the books, an evil grin spreads across his face. He remarks that while many texts exist in the world, they all share common rules. Prince Arel has lived 100 lives, and in each one, he has never been idle. That night, he devotes himself to studying the books, eager to display his brilliance. A few days later, Gamal confronts the prince, suggesting that his jests have gone too far and questioning whether he has genuinely mastered the common languages. Prince Arel sighs and assures Gamal that he isn't lying, offering to prove his expertise by reading something. Gamal wonders if the prince has merely memorized the texts, but Prince Arel insists that memorizing an entire language would be a remarkable feat in itself. After all, compared to the characters of neighboring countries, the kingdom's official language presents a significant challenge. The flustered Gamal challenges Prince Arel to select a different book to prove his claims, asserting that even the smartest individuals need to be at least 12 years old to read a simple book, while the prince is only 5. Thus, mastering a common language in just 2 days seems preposterous. Without missing a beat, Prince Arel grabs a book and flawlessly recites its contents, leaving Gamal astounded. Overwhelmed, Gamal begins to cry, exclaiming that this achievement is extraordinary. After all, a student's success elevates their teacher's reputation as well. Prince Arel merely scoffs, acknowledging that Gamal should feel honored to have such a prodigious student like him. Energized by this revelation, Gamal eagerly proceeds to that day's lesson, excited to teach his brilliant pupil. By the following night, the rumors surrounding Prince Arel had shifted. Previously, the nobility gossiped about how he couldn't even properly wield a sword, yet now, They marveled at how he had mastered the common language in a mere 2 days. Whispers circulated that he could effortlessly solve basic math problems in his head on the spot. This marked the beginning of the genius Arel's legendary reputation. But what was the source of these rumors? In a local tavern, a familiar figure could be seen boasting about recognizing Prince Arel's potential when everyone else had dismissed him. He insisted that everyone possessed hidden talents and credited his own excellent teaching for the prince's success. The drunken man regaling the nobles with tales of his prodigious student was none other than Gamal, Prince Arel's tutor. News of Arel's remarkable intellect soon reached the king, who expressed astonishment at his son's extraordinary abilities. In his conversation with Lady Livanna, the king muses that whether it be swordsmanship or magic, their young prince must have struggled with being forced to participate in activities ill-suited to his abilities. Lady Livanna apologizes for causing the king concern, while privately reflecting that she should have recognized her son's exceptional nature sooner, as his mother. As the king approaches Lady Livanna, he wonders if she has been deeply worried about their son. As they share a tender gaze, the king expresses his conviction that Prince Arel will grow up to be an impressive individual. Unbeknownst to them, the prince has been eavesdropping on their conversation and silently concurs that he will indeed accomplish great things, perhaps just enough to keep the king's interest, secure a prominent position, and enjoy himself. Thus begins the story of Arel's 101st Reincarnation, a prodigious scholar. A few days later, Prince Arel notices an increased number of guards stationed outside the concubine's castle. He surmises that, since he is unable to wield a sword or use magic, the king has sent additional troops to protect his son. The prince smiles, thinking that the king must be in good spirits. Just then, he hears a loud thud behind him. China has dropped off a large chest, which his mother explains is a gift from the king. Surprised, Prince Arel approaches the chest, and his mother urges him to open it and see what's inside. Upon opening it, he discovers an abundance of gold coins and jewels. As he sifts through the treasure, he finds a unique necklace. China inquires whether it's the most valuable item in the chest, but Prince Arel replies that while it may not be the most expensive, it is certainly the most extraordinary. Wearing the necklace, he explains, activates the brain and accelerates one's thinking, consequently reducing fatigue. China is amazed by Prince Arel's knowledge, attributing his insights to his intense study over the past few days, but the prince modestly brushes off the praise. In reality, while the necklace may seem ordinary to others, Prince Arel can perceive the mana-triggering device within the jewel. However, he has no need for it due to his inner chi. He begins to think about Kanya, who has been training her body for swordsmanship and has become quite muscular. Prince Arel asks his mother if he can give the necklace to Kanya. Lady Livanna gently pats her son's head and says that while the necklace is a gift from the king, giving it away as a present would surely please his majesty. She then inquires what Prince Arel admires about Kanya, to which he responds that she is incredibly strong, prompting laughter from the maids. That day, everyone in the concubine's castle rejoiced in the knowledge that Prince Arel was both favored and acknowledged by the king. The young knight proudly declared this fact, reminding his fellow knights that they were all part of the concubine's castle and should take pride in it. A few days later, Prince Arel sat in the dining hall with China, who informed him that all the desserts he had requested were prepared and asked for his opinion. As the prince sampled the various desserts, he found none to his liking and reached for another morsel. China encouraged him to take his time and enjoy the treats, inquiring if they were delicious. Prince Arel, frustrated, replied that they were not, as all the desserts lacked the sweetness he craved. China, puzzled, mentioned that the desserts were prepared by the best chefs and offered to call one of them over. Contemplating the situation, Prince Arel experienced a moment of clarity. What he needed was not a chef, but an alchemist. This revelation took China by surprise. Prince Arel begins to daydream about carbonated beverages and sweets from his previous life, drooling at the thought of drinking cola. He realizes that to recreate the taste of cola, he'll need an alchemist's help. China, puzzled by the mention of an alchemist, questions Prince Arel, who is surprised she overheard his musings. Prince Arel considers explaining but doubts she would understand, especially coming from a 5-year-old's sudden desire for an alchemist. Assessing his situation, Prince Arel recognizes the challenge of producing bold flavors with the limited seasonings and ingredients available in the kingdom. Furthermore, the creation of cola would require specific secondary and tertiary processes not currently accessible to him. Disheartened by this realization, he dreams of sipping a cold, tangy sweet cola. Motivated by his desire, Prince Arel reminds himself that he has chosen the genius scholar path and should take action. He jumps up from his chair and dashes out the door. China, bewildered by his sudden departure, asks where he's going, to which Prince Arel replies that he's off to study. Still perplexed, China scratches her ear, double-checking if she heard the word study correctly. As Prince Arel races through the castle corridors, he becomes singularly focused on chemistry. Since cooking and chemistry are closely related, he's determined to find answers in alchemy, allowing him to recreate cola, no matter the obstacles. 3 years pass, and Prince Arel, now 8 years old, sits at the head of a conference table. The topic of discussion revolves around plans to build new bridges, particularly in areas frequented by merchants. A supervisor inquires about Prince Arel's thoughts on the bridge plans. As he examines the blueprints, Prince Arel commends their magnificence and asks, with a hidden smirk, who designed the bridge. Another supervisor proudly takes credit, but his smile quickly fades when Prince Arel threatens to fire him if he presents another useless design. Prince Arel highlights flaws in the design, explaining that it might be functional now, but its structure would pose a danger when snow accumulates during the winter. The load would concentrate on the wooden parts below, yet the designers prioritized its flashy appearance over safety. He emphasizes that although maintaining the kingdom's beauty and grandeur is important, safety must be the top priority. He demands a redesign, then moves on to the next blueprint. With his vast knowledge and intelligence, Prince Arel's workload has skyrocketed. Those who claim to be experts or veterans in their fields pale in comparison to him. Still, they decide to place their trust in an 8-year-old. Prince Arel pities them, but he knows there is no other way. He must continue to demonstrate his skills. After the conference, as Prince Arel departs, a new maid notices him and calls out to him by his new nickname, the Young Gray Sage. Shocked by the moniker, he considers it extremely cheesy. Recognizing that the maid is new, he tells her not to call him by that nickname again, since he dislikes it. She understands and promises to keep it in mind, but as he walks away, she almost slips up and calls him the Young Gray Sage once more. Annoyed by his new nickname, Prince Arel considers it to be lame. As the carriage pulls away, Lady Livana looks out the window and asks China if Arel is going somewhere. China responds that Prince Arel has requested an audience with the king, prompting Lady Livana to wonder about the nature of their conversation. Hesitantly, China considers mentioning his desire to learn alchemy. In the carriage, Prince Arel ponders how the king might react if he suddenly asks to learn alchemy. Although his audience request was granted immediately, he assumes the king has come to trust him, as Prince Arel has been working diligently in various fields. As he looks out the window, the prince can't shake the feeling of being overwhelmed by the king's charisma, even after having reincarnated 100 times. He tells himself to remain calm, and to avoid making any mistakes, he must keep his composure when speaking to the king. When the king inquires why Prince Arel wants to learn alchemy, he replies that he wishes to be of greater help to the kingdom and the king. As he isn't skilled with swords or magic, he can only accumulate knowledge and apply it. The king considers Prince Arel's thoughts and admires the young prince's thoughtfulness. Agreeing to his request, the king promises to introduce him to some trustworthy alchemists and asks if he needs anything else. Prince Arel responds that he will ask for anything else later if needed. As the king smiles, Prince Arel smirks, thinking to himself that his plan worked. From that day on, the best alchemists in the kingdom gathered upon hearing that Prince Arel sought an alchemy teacher, viewing it as an opportunity to showcase their alchemical prowess and earn merit. Among the alchemists, it was only natural that Damon Ranchet, a practical alchemist who created reflective mirrors that transmit strong light far away and installed them on the western outskirts of the fortress to deter invaders, be selected. A few days later, Prince Arel meets Damon in the garden of the concubine castle, and Damon comments on the garden's true beauty. Prince Arel, surprised by Damon's appearance, says he expected an elder-level alchemist based on his reputation, but instead, Damon looks quite young. In response, Damon explains that his hair turned white after accidentally inhaling toxic smoke a long time ago. Prince Arel understands that Damon nearly died while learning alchemy and scoffs. Although Damon speaks calmly, he warns the prince to be prepared, as he is responsible for the young gray sage. If Prince Arel dies during research or experiments, Damon will have to take responsibility for his own life. With a serious expression, Damon reiterates that learning alchemy is much more difficult and dangerous than the prince imagines. He points out the prince's young age, but before Damon can finish, Prince Arel interrupts to say that he understands the risks. He knows alchemy is a science, not magic, and he isn't delusional about turning lead into gold. Instead, he seeks pure technology that can remove impurities from iron ores and develop stronger metals. Amazed by Prince Arel's statements, Damon thinks that with his intelligence and charisma, the prince will become the true monarch who will lead the kingdom of Arnesia. Moved by Arel's bold speech, Damon kneels before the prince, promising to do his best to teach him despite any perceived shortcomings. A few days have passed since the alchemy class began, and Prince Arel is diligently studying when Damon suddenly asks if he has studied alchemy before. Surprised by the question, Prince Arel wonders if he has shown off too much, but quickly diverts the topic by claiming that he read about it in a book. Damon accepts his answer, remarking that Prince Arel is just as the rumors described. Silently, Prince Arel is relieved that he adopted the genius scholar persona. The two of them end up working tirelessly from sunrise to sunset. As their research progresses, Prince Arel confirms the technique of hardening iron by adding eggshells or bone ash, which he verifies with Damon. In addition to learning methods for extracting lead and other substances, Prince Arel realizes that, apart from the unique metals and medicines in this world, everything else is the same as in his previous lives. Amazed, Prince Arel exclaims aloud how fortunate it is that the rules are no different. Damon questions the prince about his remark, but Prince Arel dismisses it, saying he was just talking to himself. With his plan proceeding smoothly, Prince Arel sends a letter to the king requesting for more alchemists. The king does not hesitate and agrees to the request, ordering his men to find the best alchemists in the kingdom. His advisor understands the order, but expresses concern about potential complaints regarding the kingdom's budget allocation. Reflecting on his previous meeting with Prince Arel, the king reassures his advisor that if it is the prince, then the research will surely benefit the kingdom. Back in the kingdom, Prince Arel announces his intention to create a carbonated drink, which astonishes the alchemists. They question him about the carbonated drink, asking if he intends to make food. To their surprise, Prince Arel joyfully confirms that is exactly what he plans to do. He presents some basic theories, but before he can continue with his project, the alchemists in the room become disheartened. They had traveled there to bring honor to their family names, but instead found themselves making snacks. One alchemist even laments giving up his tenured professor position at the Alchemy Academy. To reassure them, Prince Arel declares that they will be rewarded handsomely regardless of the project's outcome. At this point, the room's atmosphere transforms, and the alchemists begin brainstorming ideas. They determine that the first requirement is carbonated water, which can be found in natural veins within certain territories of the kingdom, and can be quickly transported. Prince Arel observes that sincerity is not a priority for these people. They will be content as long as they receive ample money or fame. Nevertheless, he acknowledges that they will serve as a valuable resource for accelerating his research. A few days later, wagons filled with barrels of carbonated water from various territories arrive one after another, delighting Prince Aurel. Damon starts by opening one of the barrels and asking, with a look of disgust, if they are supposed to drink it. Prince Aurel tells him they must first check if it is drinkable, but upon inspecting the contents, he nearly gags at the sight and declares the carbonated water undrinkable, labeling it a failure. He examines the other barrels and deduces their failures as well. Unfazed, Prince Aurel announces that they need to create artificially carbonated water, and the alchemists clamor in response. Distributing a paper containing relevant theories, he suggested that discovering clues based on these theories might simplify the task. Sensing the weight of responsibility upon them, Prince Aurel reassured the alchemists that, as the best in their field, he believed they would accomplish the goal in no time. Turning to Damon for affirmation, the prince was met with a lackluster agreement. They were, indeed, the finest alchemists in Arnesia. With a spring in his step, Prince Aurel exited the room, whistling cheerfully as he told the alchemists that experimenting with theories and putting them into practice should be their delight, so he wouldn't intrude on their time any further. Though he pondered whether they could truly achieve the goal within a week, he remained confident that his challenge would inspire them to complete the task even more swiftly. Just a few days later, Prince Aurel excitedly assures his alchemists that this carbonated water will undoubtedly bring vitality to the kingdom, and that its popularity will generate a massive fortune. The alchemists privately wonder if it can truly achieve such results. Prince Aurel is amazed that they managed to create artificially carbonated water so quickly, and he eagerly grabs a flask to sample it. Damon and the other alchemists speculate whether it will become popular, as the water packs quite a kick but lacks taste. Prince Aurel clears up the misunderstanding, explaining that they will not drink it as is but instead mix it with fruit juice or alcohol. Although his original goal was to recreate cola, he could not obtain the cola fruit and settled for a carbonated alternative. Prince Aurel began by adding lemon juice to the carbonated beverage and took a sip. The initial taste was spot on, causing him to exclaim that it was perfect, his eyes shining with excitement. He then distributed samples to the alchemists, who, as expected, adored them. The invigorating lemon flavor, coupled with the gentle fizz of carbonation, left them yearning for more. And so, Prince Aurel's carbonated Ade was born. The fame of carbonated Ade rapidly extended beyond the borders of the Arnesia kingdom, transforming into a luxurious item exchanged among the nobility. Even the king had to try it, and was astonished, filled with pride that his own prince had devised such a remarkable beverage.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next page soon. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.